The transfer window is around the corner, which means money is going to be spent, and there's quite a few teams in the league that currently want to spend some cash. We've got Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Tottenham, and Villa in front of us. Who do we think needs to do the most work in this transfer window?
Liverpool. I think Liverpool because the injuries to Matip as well. Can you trust Joe Gomez's fitness as well? It's been a question mark for his whole career. And then you got Jarrell Quansah. So that's a lot to ask for a young player. So I think and also the DM position. Liverpool are top of the league at the moment with McAllister at 6. Just imagine if they can move McAllister a little bit to that RCM position and get in a DM. I think if Liverpool can jump into the market with 2 signings, a centre-back next to Van Dijk and a defensive midfielder, then you might be singing 20 times. You might be singing 20 times.
I like the argument for Liverpool. I look at it as opposed to expectations or goals. And if Liverpool don't win the Premier League this season, they're not going to be devastated. They know that they're going to finish in the top 4. If they win the league, it'd be incredible. They would have overachieved. Again, Man City, you've talked about them in terms of this could be their season off. I think if Arsenal don't win the league, Arsenal fans will be looking at it about when are we ever going to win it. So it's between Arsenal and Spurs for me because Spurs have got such a thin squad. And if Spurs don't finish in the top 4 after the start to the season, again, Spurs fans will be looking at it as a very disappointing season after that fanfare about Big Ange. And we came on here and we waxed lyrical about how good of an appointment that is and where he's going to take Spurs culturally. But after they started the season so well, if they don't finish in the top 4, they're going to have to reassess where they're at. And I think with how thin their squad is, we all said it at the beginning of the season. It's like, what happens if Maddison gets injured or Romero gets suspended? Then all those things happened in one game against Chelsea. And you've seen where Spurs have been since. And I think that just to kind of retain where they are in the league and to try and push on for the top 4, I think Spurs need to bring some players in.
I think Spurs need a little run in the Europa League, personally. I think they do. Go and try and win a Europa League. Like, Spurs haven't won anything since 2008. Why do they think, I don't want to sound disrespectful, but why should they be in the Champions League? Do you know what I mean? Like, why does that show progress for Spurs? We've seen Spurs get into the Champions League and nothing's happened and they haven't made sales, they haven't done anything. If they continue to overhaul the team and they're in the Europa League, go and try and win that. I think Europa League is perfectly fine season for Spurs.
They sort of had that this season because they went out in the Carabao Cup and I was sat there thinking, you need to win a competition and you're rotating for a cup. Part of me thinks, we actually praised Ange for bringing their expectation to like reality. But then if you said that to Spurs fans now, you shouldn't be in the Champions League. You're just there to make up the numbers in the group stage. They'd be like, no, we can go all the way. Yeah. But on the basis of what? They've only been all the way once and lost in the final. Yeah. Arsenal, I want to very quickly touch on. We've been going on about this on social media constantly. Arsenal need a striker to win this league. Gabriel Jesus against Aston Villa was so frustrating to watch because I was sat there going, you're your number 9 and you're getting the ball with your back turned to goal with no one behind you and you are refusing to turn and shoot. When we were kids, coaches used to say, turn and shoot, turn and shoot. Ivan Toney is, people are saying, potentially available. He keeps posting Instagram stories saying he's watching Arsenal. He wants that move.
Yeah, I don't know. I think at the moment in the Premier League or at the moment of world football, there are a lack of strikers, a lack of goal scorers. I really like Ivan Toney. What, one season of scoring 20 goals in the Premier League and how many of those are pens? We don't know. We don't know how good you are.
Hater, bro. Hate watching everyone.
I love Ivan Toney, but I feel like you're forcing it a little bit because I've seen with Chelsea, like, we need a striker, we go sign a striker and they don't score goals. And scoring goals is the hardest thing to do in football. And if you're going to go spend big money on one, you have to make sure it's a banker. Because if you go and get a dud, you're stuck with a dud and it affects morale, it affects everything. Right now, I think that Arsenal can kind of do what City did when they won the Premier League, when they let go of Aguero and they kind of won it without like an out-and-out striker, because there's no one out there. You can say Ivan Toney's been up for how long? How long is it going to take him to get back up to speed? By the time he's back up to speed, where we're going to be? We're going to be in March, April. I just think that Arsenal can stay where they are in terms of strikers. Right winger for me, though, is a big one. And I talked about Pedro Neto before he had these injury issues, but Saka can't be playing this many minutes, man.
But how are you going to balance a player like Pedro Neto and Saka in the same squad? Like, you've got 2 world-class wingers there.
But Neto consistently gets injured. My issue is the amount of minutes that Saka plays for somebody his age. He shouldn't be starting some of the games that he's starting in. He shouldn't be starting in every single Champions League game or every single cup game, because eventually it's going to take its toll. And we've seen how many injuries have happened this season because of the change in football, the change in intensity, the change in players' physiques. And I think the Saka, if he carries on playing this many minutes, Arsenal are going to have to pay dividends for that eventually.
The thing is, though, when you're the best player, when you become that guy, you know, you play every minute. That's the thing. And look, I understand that maybe later in his career, we might be looking back at it and being like, wow, how did Saka play that many minutes? But he became this good and this important to Arsenal so early. And you look at Mo Salah, he wants to play every single minute. Cristiano, Messi, all these...
Even someone like Jude Bellingham.
Yes, exactly. Jude Bellingham's playing with knee straps, shoulder pads. He
for like the last 3 years.
Exactly. Like, the best players want to be out there. And I promise you, I feel like a lot of people, when we talk about Bukayo Saka, we talk about him like his little baby and he has no choice or anything. Bukayo Saka is probably saying to Arteta, yeah, I'll play. I'm on it. I want to be the best. And that's the thing. If he wants to be best, if he wants to be in these conversations of all the best players in the world and Ballon d'Ors and all this type of stuff, which people have their projection for, he's going to need to play pretty much every single game. It's just the reality of being a team's key man.
I understand that.
Rashford does it for Man United. When Rashford doesn't get a break, when Man United are firing, he's playing every single minute.
When you look at the standard bearers of the Premier League, though, and that's Manchester City for the last half a decade, maybe even decade, they can go to the fatality midweek and you won't see a Kevin De Bruyne starting. You might not. Haaland is a different animal.
But again, Haaland wants to be that. You know, Haaland wants to play every. You see, he's coming off with 5 goals. He's angry. Do you know what I mean? Like this is the situation. If you want to be the best, you've got to play. And I get it. Man City have actually kind of skewed that vision for people because City stockpiled quality. You know, and their recruitment was perfect, whatever. But City stockpiled quality with people that can play in multiple positions as well. So it's a little bit different for them. And even when you're talking about like winning a title without a striker, they had so much quality. Arsenal don't have as much quality as Man City, and that's the thing, you know. But again, Haaland is the one guy that's come in. Messi too was the 2 guys that have come in and said to Pep Guardiola, I want to play every single minute. And Pep Guardiola says, okay, do it. And I just think that's what's going to happen.
The idea behind City having so much quality is nailed on. Because like Bernardo Silva, season after season, keeps saying he wants to leave because he's not playing enough. And Pep somehow convinces him because that's what Pep does. But if you look back to, say, like a Liverpool team who've been at that level for so many years, that same 11 starts every single week. So I think it depends on what you've got available. Another team in here is Aston Villa. The only sort of pressing area is probably Ollie Watkins. And this is madness, by the way. His injury record states on Transfermarkt he's had 0 injuries in his whole career.
Wow.
So maybe Unai Emery doesn't need a backup striker. But if that is the one area and they want to compete for Europa League or Champions League next season, then it probably is a backup striker. Let us know in the comments who you think needs to do the most in this transfer window.